Hey, what's up everybody? This is Berg501 and today I want to go over all of the 12 Valorplates in Godfall. Now I wanted to keep this video to going over the passives of all the Valorplates and what all of their Archon Fury abilities do. And you guys will also be able to see what all of the different Valorplates look like and what most of them take to craft in terms of their resources. So all of the Archon Fury abilities are pretty similar to one another and they're pretty much put into two different categories. You're either doing a shockwave that deals damage and possibly does something else like reveal weak spots, or you're summoning three different types of allies. So say one of the Valor plates will summon three spirit allies, or one will summon three water allies. And pretty much all the different Valor plates passives and Archon Fury abilities are built around buffing one of the mechanics in the game, whether it be shock damage or weak spots or breach damage. So first off, we have Vertigo with the passive 10% chance to inflict shock, and the Archon Fury ability is Unleash a Shockwave that deals 336 air damage. And during Archon Fury, you have a 90% chance to inflict shock, you have a 100% increased damage to shocked enemies, and your attacks will deal air damage. This Valorplate is pretty much fully built around dealing air damage, which is the damage type that then allows you to apply shock to enemies. So next we have Aegis Horn, which I think is going to be one of the strongest Valorplates if you're someone that's always going to be playing in a group with 1 to 2 other people. So the passive is you take 5% less damage, just baseline. You're much tankier. Your Archon Fury ability is call forth 3 spirit warriors to aid you in battle, and during your Archon Fury, you and your allies take 30% less damage, and whenever you are hit, you shoot 3 projectiles that deal 224 physical damage to nearby enemies. Now that amount of damage at the base of the Valorplate is pretty insane. Giving you and your other allies 30% damage reduction during the Archon Fury is pretty massive. So I think anybody who, like I said, is going to be playing in a group all the time, I think it would definitely be a good idea to have an Aegis Horn in your group just for that massive damage reduction for all of you. So next up we have Lumina with the passive 15% weak point damage, and weak points are essentially a thing that can pop up. It seems to be pretty rare. If you hit it, you do extra damage to it, and there's tons of perks that affect weak point damage. So you could possibly heal if you hit it, you can get extra damage, and you can get a ton of other buffs. Your Archon Fury ability is Unleash a Shockwave that deals 11 physical damage and reveals enemy weak points. So the Shockwave isn't really for the damage at all, it's just to reveal those weak points to be able to then hit those. So this Valorplate would definitely be a Valorplate to do if you want to do a weak point build. And during Archon Fury, Unleash a Shockwave every 11 seconds that deals 11 damage and reveals enemy weak points. It's like a constant shockwave. Now I'm not sure how long the Archon Fury of Lumina is, but I can definitely see a build being really focused on weak points and having Archon Fury up for as long as you possibly can. You also get 40% weak point damage and 40% weak point damage whenever you perform a death blow. Valorplate just completely focused on a weak point damage and being able to reveal those weak points, because weak points just generally in the game are decently rare. Now next up we have Hinterclaw. Now Hinterclaw is a little bit different than all the other Valorplates because you have to beat the main campaign and unlock Dreamstones to be able to get the resources to craft Hinterclaw. And Hinterclaw seems to be one of the strongest just outright damage dealers of any of the Valorplates. So the passive is 5% critical hit chance. The Archon Fury ability is call forth 3 spirit warriors to aid you in battle. During Archon Fury, you get 30% increased critical hit chance, which is massive, and then 15% critical hit damage whenever you defeat an enemy, and that stacks up to a maximum of 150%. So if you want to do any critical hit, critical damage builds, Hinterclaw is going to be the very easy choice if you've completed the campaign and you're getting into Dreamstones to actually be able to unlock Hinterclaw. Next up we have Mesa with the passive 10% chance to inflict poison, and your Archon Fury ability is Unleash a Shockwave that deals 336 earth damage. Now earth damage is the damage type that can inflict poison, and during Archon Fury we have a 90% chance to inflict poison, 100% damage increase to poison enemies, and your attacks deal earth damage. So pretty much the same as Vertigo that we already went over, but it is just on another one of the ailments, and you'll see that throughout a few of these Valorplates. They're pretty similar in their Archon Fury ability and the amounts of increases they're getting, but it'll just be a different ailment and a different damage over time effect. Next up we have Silvermane, and this is the Valorplate you start with in the game, and also in the screenshot this one has different pieces of gear on and a different cosmetic on, so it will look a little bit different. All the other Valor plates will have just their base look with the base weapons they start with. So Silvermane's passive is 10% weapon technique charge speed, shield charge speed, and polarity attack charge speed. Archon Fury is call for 3 spirit warriors to aid you in battle. During Archon Fury, 300% weapon technique charge speed, shield charge speed, and polarity attack charge speed, 30% damage whenever you defeat an enemy with a weapon technique, shield ability, or polarity attack. Silvermane is pretty much just all based on your weapon techniques, your being able to use your shields, and polarity attacks, which are tied to your weapons as well. That is the mechanic that when you switch to a different weapon, if your polarity is charged, you do an AoE attack and then get a damage buff with that weapon. Next up, we have Armistice with the passive 10% breach damage, and the Archon Fury abilities unleash a shockwave that breaches enemies and deals 11 physical damage. And during Archon Fury, you get 50% breach damage, 100% damage to breached enemies, 100% takedown damage, and 50% damage whenever you defeat a breached enemy or an enemy with a takedown. So Armistice kind of is a little bit different because he has a big buffs to breach damage, takedown damage, then you get extra buffs from breaching or taking down enemies. A pretty big damage increase, and this is definitely going to be one of the best Valor plates when you're going up against armored enemies and a good amount of the bosses that I've seen so far in the game. Next up, we have Typhon with the passive 10% chance to inflict chill, and your Archon Fury is summon 3 water sentinels, and during Archon Fury you have a 90% chance to inflict chill, 100% damage to chilled enemies, and your attacks deal water damage, and water damage is what inflicts chill on enemies. So pretty similar to the other ones, but a lot of the other ones focused on one of the different ailments were shockwaves. So this one is pretty much just switching out the shockwave to switching out summoning allies to fight with you that deal that specific damage type that can then apply the ailment that Typhon is focused on. Now next, we have Greyhawk with the passive plus 10% Soul Shatter buildup. Archon Fury ability is unleash a shockwave that applies 336 Soul Shatter buildup to nearby enemies. During Archon Fury, you have 100% increased Soul Shatter buildup. Unleash a shockwave that applies 336 Soul Shatter buildup at nearby enemies whenever you Soul Shatter an enemy. So just completely built around Soul Shattering enemies and doing a lot more damage with your Soul Shatters. Pretty simple, but I think Soul Shatter is probably one of the strongest mechanics in the game from my experience. So I think this could easily be one of the strongest Valor plates. Next up, we have Phoenix with the passive plus 10% chance to inflict ignite, and the Archon Fury ability is unleash a shockwave that deals 30 fire damage. And also with all of these Valor plate cards, whatever shows as a flat damage number doesn't really mean anything. That will change with whatever stats you have. And during Archon Fury, 90% chance to inflict ignite, 100% damage to ignited enemies, and your attacks deal fire damage. So fire damage is the damage type that can inflict ignite. So pretty similar to a lot of the other ones, just based on this specific ailment. Next, we have Mobius with the passive plus 10% chance to inflict curse. The Archon Fury ability is summon 3 Void Sentinels. During Archon Fury, you have a 90% chance to inflict curse, 100% increased damage to curse enemies, and your attacks deal void damage. And void damage is the damage type that can inflict curse. And again, really similar to a lot of the other Valor plates, just as one is focused on void damage and cursing. And last up, we have Bulwark with the passive plus 10% chance to inflict bleed, and your Archon Fury ability summon 3 physical sentinels. During Archon Fury, you have a 90% chance to inflict bleed, 100% increased damage to bleeding enemies, and your attacks deal physical damage, and physical damage is the damage type that inflicts bleed. So again, very similar with all the other Valor plates, just based on physical damage and bleeds. So that's pretty much a whole video. I just wanted to do a quick overview on all of the different Valor plates abilities and passives, and there'll be screenshots in the video so you guys can see what all the different Valor plates look like. And I will say I'm a little bit disappointed with their different Archon Fury abilities. I think the passives work fine, but the Archon Fury abilities being just one of 2 different abilities that do pretty much the same thing with different damage types is pretty boring, and I would have expected that every different Valor plate has their own different type of ability, but I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue in the grand scheme of things because of how many different ways you have to customize your build, how many different perks and different stats and traits that there are in the game in general that you'll have equipped at the same time. So I don't think the overall gameplay and play styles of the game is going to suffer too much, but it would have been much better, much more unique, and much more fun if every Valor plate had their own different ability that does something different. But that's pretty much the entire video. Subscribe if you want to see more Godfall or other videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about all of the different Valor plates, and thanks for watching.